All right. Okay. All right. It's a few minutes past 7:30. I think I'll kick it off. So good evening to everybody. My name is Rich Correo. I'm one of the members of the FABGC Executive Committee and happy to be your host tonight for this Zoom meet and greet. Happy to introduce our candidates. And I want to thank you for taking the time out to be with us this evening. Just so you know, we're recording this event and it will later be posted onto social media so that people can go back and review it and catch up. We're also live streaming the event on Facebook Live as well. Just because it's been a long day, most of us work, why don't we dive right in? I think I will turn it over momentarily to the candidates, let them each introduce themselves, give a little bit of their background, why they're running. For those of you who would like to ask a question, there are two ways to do so. The first is down at the bottom. You should see a little reactions icon, little smiley face with a plus sign. You can click on that and click raise hand, and I should be able to see it. I'll do my best to kind of pick on everybody. The other way is just to text me the question. There's a text at the bottom right, text box. So with that, I will hand it over to Charlie Kelly. And give me one moment. Charlie, I just have to unmute you. Just give me 1 second. There we go.
Yep. Good evening. My name is Charles Kelly. I'm running for trustee. I work as a federal prosecutor, specializing in opioid prosecutions of doctors and pharmacists. I grew up on 4th Street, attended St. Joseph's School, as did my brothers and sisters, attended Garden City High School, and eventually became an attorney. I've been very involved in CYO, ran a Christmas tournament in honor of one of my late brothers that ran for about 12 years in St. Joseph's Gymnasium. I coached Centennial Soccer for many years, and I was a manager and coach of Garden City Little League Baseball for several years. And currently I am chairman of the Board of Ethics for the village, and I'm chairman of the Law Committee subcommittee on the St. Paul's Committee. And those are the positions I currently hold. And the reason I'm running is to try to continue the restoration of transparency and fairness in village government. As many of you know, there's been a significant transition in the last year from the situation where people such as me, when we spoke at board meetings, were cut off, or people just wandered away from the trustees' bench, constantly being cut off. And now not only does the board listen, but they have meet and greets monthly, and they have committees of residents addressing issues. So I think this openness is a sign of the fairness of the new board. And I want to help to continue that. And that's why I'm running.
Great. Thank you very much, Charlie. And at this time, I will throw it over to Mr. Bruce Torino.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to speak with everyone. I have been a resident of the village since 1981. I used to live over on Laurel Street in the east, and my wife and I had the opportunity to build a house in the central section. That was one of the first introductions I had with village government, going through the Architectural Review Board, the Building Department, the Zoning Board, and my then role started to change because in 1997, 98, there was a revitalization program that the Board of Trustees had intended to take down Village Hall and put a supermarket there. I was the CPOA president at the time, and then nominated for trustee, and I served for 2 years. Both my sons went through the Garden City school system. I stayed current after my tenure was over. However, of late, there were a number of issues that came before the past boards, of which some of my neighbors were not treated in a kind and neighborly fashion that required my intervention. It was very distressing to see and to sit through what I thought was disparaging comments of neighbors. The election of Mayor Vinizielli required the introduction of a fire safety committee. And due to my background, both as a fireman and a property and fire litigator, I put my name in and was selected. I had the opportunity to work with an extremely competent and great group of individuals who worked diligently to examine and determine what focus the fire department should take in the future. I put together, with the help of everyone, a presentation that was given to the board. And upon the conclusion of that, the mayor asked that I continue being involved in the village and requested that I run for a trustee position in order to continue the work that needed to be done and to continue the open, transparent, and friendly nature of a board of trustees that had heretofore not existed. So my role here is to continue the good work that has been done for the last year, to continue it in the future, and to address those issues that are most important to the village. They be the cathedral, lead in the water, traffic, and basically the delivery of municipal services in a competent and efficient manner. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. And at this time, I'll throw it over to Trustee Mary Carter Flanagan.
Mary has to be unmuted.
Hey, hi, everybody. I'm Mary Carter Flanagan. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I am excited to be a FABGC candidate again for trustee. Some of you may have heard, my background last year when I was a candidate, but I'll just rehash. I grew up in Garden City, graduated from high school in 1986, Garden City High School. I moved back to Garden City with my husband, and we raised our 3 children here. All 3 went to Garden City High School, with the youngest graduating in 2020. I am a lawyer, and I work as an administrative law judge for the New York State Workers' Compensation Board. During the years as my kids were growing up, I was involved in a lot of different community organizations, though not specifically village government. It was more geared towards my children, as Girl Scout leader, lacrosse coach, soccer coach, nursery school. I was very involved with their cooperative nursery school. When my youngest graduated from high school, it seemed like a good time to focus more on service to the village that I've been fortunate to, appreciate growing up here and raising my family here. And it just so happened at that time that FABGC was starting up, and I got involved with FABGC. It's been a great experience. I've enjoyed serving for the last year and would like the opportunity to continue serving the village as a trustee.
Great. Thank you, Mary. And last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Larry Marciano.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and it's a pleasure meeting everyone again virtually. By this Zoom session again. One of the things we do in the new world we live in. My name is Larry Marciano. My wife and I actually moved to Garden City back in 1998, and actually moved into our house here in the east on Wyatt Road in the Mott section in 2002. My daughters, both my daughters went through elementary school here in the town, though my older daughter went through to Sacred Heart for high school over in Hempstead. My younger daughter is actually a junior at the high school today. We enjoyed, one of the things we were looking for homes, we wanted to come to Garden City in part because of our, what it stood for, right? What it stood for and the way and the real core set of family values that it was founded on. One of the things that we've done and how I've been able to participate in the town is I was coach through the Centennials program actually up until this year. Also coached the kids through the Rams lacrosse program, coached softball for 1 year as well. And really enjoyed being part of the community, enjoyed really taking part of it. And I think as my children have kind of gotten to the point where they're getting out of the sports program, was looking for ways to get back. Now, professionally, I'm actually a project manager at the Royal Bank of Canada on the Capital Markets Group, and I'm also an adjunct professor in finance at NYU. And I thought, again, what is an opportunity for me to give back? And I think in seeing what FABGC was able to achieve last year, it was interesting to see how they were able to open people's eyes to different changes and choices you could have in village government. And seeing today, all the things that are facing our fine village. Whether you want to talk about St. Paul's, you want to talk about monster polls or things like that. I think it really, at this point, we need people that are going to look to continue to change the way we do things, right? Look for different alternatives. And most of all, put the values and the needs of our citizens first. And I think that was one of the things that really led me to this opportunity to really pursue this. And so I think seeing what's happened over time, I don't think previous administrations have really considered the people first, right? We're here to serve the people of Garden City and to put their values and their needs ahead. And that's really why I love this opportunity and appreciate the chance to be part of the FABGC candidacy for the Board of Trust. Thank you.
All right, great. Thanks, Larry. At this point, if anybody who's dialed in has a question, you could raise your hand. You could ask the question live of the candidate, or you can text the question to me directly using the Zoom text feature, usually found at the bottom right of the screen. So I'll wait a minute. Let's see if anybody wants to raise their hand, or who will be the brave person to go first. Just bear with me. There's a question from Larry. Let's see if Larry, can you are you muted?
I don't think so anymore.
There we
And
go.
it's really not Larry, but it's Larry's wife, Noreen. And it's just a comment and probably a question. First of all, I applaud all of you for volunteering to take on and to continue, as in Mary Carter Flanagan's situation, to be able to volunteer, because I feel as if you have restored or are beginning to restore my faith in the fact that this village is going to not be transparent. And there are many issues going on. Personally, I recently took advantage of the New York State free water testing program, and alarmingly found out that my house has very high levels of lead. Fortunately, my experience with Ralph Spazzi was more positive than some people before me, and the village is taking more proactive, um, um, I guess, testing right now. But without belaboring the issue, I want to make sure that the candidates going forward, and this is selfish, but are really going to take this seriously because it's a public health issue that we have been dealing with. I know Larry Marciano, I don't know you. I know Charlie pretty well from swimming. Mary Carter, I don't know you, but I know you from a neighbor that I trust. Larry Marciano, I live on Wyatt Road, so they decided to test my whole block because of the situation in my house. So it's near and dear to you. But thank you all, and I hope there's many issues at stake, but this is a public health issue, so it takes a different level.
Thank you, Noreen. And maybe I'll throw it back to any of the candidates want to address any of the issues that Noreen raises. Feel free to chime in. Mary,
just- Yeah, I'll just say, Noreen, thanks for coming on. And the issue of lead is something we are taking very seriously. And this Wednesday, for anyone on the line here, we are going to have the EAB is hosting a lead information session at Village Hall, and there will be Zoom access. So I encourage everybody to come and also to tell friends and neighbors and family members. And one thing is, the more people that get this information, the better. I'd like everyone in the village, within the next short period of time to be aware of issues with lead, dangers of lead, how you can get lead in your water and what you can do about it. I look forward to sharing that. And it's definitely an issue we are going to be, working on moving forward. And thank you for coming in. I'm grateful to the resident who brought this really to everyone's attention when she came up. She had a result that she shared with the whole community of a high lead level, and found out she had lead in her water. And I'm sure that wasn't an easy thing to do, but I appreciate that she came forward. And I think as a community with good communication, we can address issues like this, and it's a serious one.
thank you, Mary. And before I throw it to Larry, sort of the fresh face, right? Mary, you mentioned the EAB, just so I don't want to assume, but can you just describe the EAB briefly for everybody, just make sure everybody understands what that is?
Sure. So the Environmental Advisory Board is a board for the Village of Garden City. We have 8 board members, and they serve terms, and they're staggered, the terms. We have 2 new members of the Environmental Advisory Board this year, and we have a great group. And our mission is to advise the Board of Trustees on environmental issues, and also to work on community education on environmental issues. So this lead water falls really right into what the EAB was formed to address, and we are stepping up to do that.
Great. And Larry, did you have anything to add on the issues that were raised?
I was just going to say, Noreen, good to see another Wyatt Road resident on the call. But it's actually quite scary because I met Ralph Spazzi Friday, and he was telling about lead, and I said, "Oh, lead, great!" And you think about, "Oh, it's in Garden City." And I went, "Really? So where in Garden City?" He's like, "Oh, in the Mott." And of course, you go, "Well, where in the Mott?" And he's like, "Wyatt Road." I thought, okay, well, guess what? Now this is,
More personal.
Yeah, it might be a Garden City problem, but now it's a personal problem because it's my neighbors. Not that not everyone in Garden City are neighbor, but the folks that live here on Wyatt Road, I will see you walking my dog. So it is something very personal that we have to take care of. And we got to make this community a safe one for us, right? For us, for our families, for our children.
Well, it's not just Wyatt Road. I mean, it is and I don't want to take away from the point of tonight's meeting. I just want to make sure, and I want to make sure because I guess one of the things that maybe some of you, because Charlie's a lawyer, and I posted this on the residents' Facebook page, but I hate doing stuff that's hearsay, but that I can't confirm, but I want to be able to confirm whether or not the village amended the law to that the homeowners were responsible for the service line between the street and their home. Because I have heard it from more than one source from plumbers saying that at one point the village was responsible for that. And in municipalities across the county, it varies. Tending to be that I do feel bad because this is really the EAB meeting issue, but if there's a broader group here, it's important that they come here. But I do want to know how to check whether or not that law was amended, because and why it was amended, because that really concerns me.
All right, so just to let everyone, because there was the Wyatt Road, I do want to let people know that it's not just on Wyatt Road, this issue. And part of the information we'll be sharing at our meeting is how does lead get into water? And there are different ways, but the most common source of high lead in water is something called the lead service line, which is the line that connects your home to the water main. And that's something we'll be talking about more. And one thing that I think is important is that everybody in town understands what a lead service line is, what their water service line is, and what theirs is made out of. And we'll go more into that. I, checked the age of your house. Unless your house and your water line was after like 1986, it could be lead. And there are a lot of different factors. It's not that you can't necessarily tell by the age of the house. My house in 38 was probably built the same year and they used copper. It's not lead. And I have read it had to do with like the war. There was a shortage of lead. So some people got the lead. So there are a lot of, that's something that we're going to be addressing. But the lead service lines, I think, is something we want everyone to understand what a water service line is and find out if they have a lead one, because that is a common source of lead in water, and something that's actually part of the infrastructure bill too. It's been identified not just in Garden City, but nationwide as an issue.
Thank you, Mary.
All right.
And we do have a question from Julie, and this came in via text. Can you explain the Cathedral situation? I believe referring to the Cathedral Church. There's been recent reports of an RFP, potential development. I don't know, Bruce, Mary, or any of the candidates, if anybody has any insights or can speak to that emerging issue, if you will.
Well, this is Charlie Kelly, and certainly the village's understanding was that when the Cathedral House was taken down, it would remain green space. And that only has to do with a little sliver of the property. And what we're interested in, or what I'm interested in, is making sure that the entire horseshoe that surrounds the cathedral itself remains green space and stays the way, at least I understood, and I believe the cathedral represented it would be. And it's a critical area of green space for the central section and for the village as a whole. And I believe that it has to remain that way. And there are certainly, although I haven't seen any documents, there are certainly a lot of rumors out there that the cathedral has been sounding out or looking to see what the value of either the property or the development rights might be. And certainly people are familiar with the cathedral's longstanding interest in divesting itself of certain assets and raising funds. I mean, this is how we got St. Paul's for whatever, 18 million 30 years ago. And, you know, we are good stewards of green space, even if we're poor stewards of buildings on green space. We have made wonderful use of the green space at St. Paul's, even if we failed to make any use of the St. Paul's building itself. And so, you know, it's part of the Park and Arbor initiative that I am interested in, which is dramatically increasing the plantings each year and maintaining all the green space we have and declaring much of the green space that currently exists as parkland. There's some critical areas of the village, even the triangle over near Westbury and Lefferts, where so many kids play. That should be parkland. That shouldn't be something that possibly gets developed in the future, because it's something that is an enormous asset to the residents in that area. And that's an example of the kind of green space we want to make sure remains green space for the benefit of the immediate neighborhood and for the benefit of the village as a whole.
Thank you,
If I
Charlie.
may,
Go ahead, Bruce.
if I may, my tenure as a trustee goes back 20 years. And from a historical perspective, the village and the cathedral has always had a good relationship, and the purchase of St. Paul's was on a friendly basis. Why the cathedral did not come to the village to inquire of its desire to pick it up and purchase that property is an area that the next Board of Trustees will have to inquire of. Also, the fields by the middle school were also obtained by the Board of Education from the cathedral on essentially a friendly basis. So therefore, the cathedral should very much be made aware of the intent of the village to acquire this property and to desire this property, and to be forthcoming to the village on what they want to do, how they want to do it, in order that we are not blindsided and have the most opportunity, as Charlie has said, to preserve this space. Once it is given up to construction or housing, it'll never come back. So therefore, we have to remain vigilant. You have the examples of a lot of the communities on the east area of Suffolk County for the preservation of space. And you've also had the example of where developers come in and consume that space for their own purposes. In my particular case, since this is located in the central area, I am very much attuned to the need that vigilance and active discussions with the cathedral take place before any untoward action is taken. Thank you.
We have another question that's come in. Is there a role for the POAs as you reach out to the residents? And the person is thanking everybody for the service to the community. I think the question might have been in response to reaching out to residents about the water. But again, is there a role for the POAs as you're reaching out and communicating with residents?
Absolutely.
I'll Bruce first.
Certainly. I was a POA president. The role of the POAs has been as the community agreement sets forth, but it's not an exclusive role. I greatly appreciate their efforts, and I think that the village should utilize the POAs, and the POAs should interact with the village in a cooperative manner in order to achieve the stated goals of the delivery of municipal services. They are presently and have in the past been a positive influence, but it has to be cooperative. And that's has always been my position.
Anybody else? Charlie, did you have something you want to say, or?
On the POAs,
Correct.
I think every group in town has a role to play, and we welcome the input of any group in town to contribute to the dialogue regarding the critical issues that face the village.
I guess on that topic, I'll just, on all of these outreach, like the lead meeting that's coming up, I know FABGC shared it with their mailing list, and I communicated with the POA presidents who also shared it through their mailing list. So, we are working cooperatively on communication matters, if that was the question.
Thank you. So there's another question. Why are we limiting testing discussions to lead only? So again, just getting back to the water issue, then there are many other toxins in the water that need to be investigated thoroughly. Fluoride, for example. Ultimately, the question is, can the candidates be clear on how they are addressing or would address water safety more generally, not just related to lead?
I'll address that since I am the chair of the Environmental Advisory Board, and it's something we have been discussing. We actually have a meeting on the agenda for that Elizabeth Bailey is working on. She's bringing in a speaker on the broader water quality issues. We're also looking to share water conservation measures with the community and explain how that ties in with water qualities. Water is a huge and complex issue that we can't really take on in one meeting. So that broader issue, and we had to get the speaker planned. We wanted a bigger venue. So that is planned for next month. The lead came up through a resident who brought it to our attention. So the lead was not initially going to be part of our water presentation. The reason we ended up changing our January meeting to address that. And the reason is, as this resident raised, it's time sensitive for anyone who may be pregnant and drinking water from the tap, or who may have young children in the household. And the other thing that's so important, education is everything with lead, because it's not that hard to filter lead out of your water. If you have the knowledge that you have it, we have free testing available, inexpensive filtration to get the lead out. So we are put that in, prioritize that and change our energy efficiency meeting to focus on that issue of lead. It's not that we're not going to address the other ones, but that will take, the topic of lead will take a full meeting. I don't know who asked that, Val, if you have any follow-up on that, or if that answered your question. I recognize that so many people have so many concerns about the water, and I do think that one of the things that we're focusing on, the people who are elected and the FABGC running forward, is the communication. And I think that's so important in building up better communication, and water is one of those areas. So we are on that. The lead got moved to this meeting because of the time sensitive nature of it.
Mary.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I think that was an excellent question. I've written several letters to the Garden City News about this lead issue, and broadening it to the other toxins is certainly a helpful suggestion. Right now, I believe the village is simply responding to the issue that's presented to it, because we know that there are problems, lead problems in the village. What I had urged in one of my letters was that people make the effort, which doesn't require a lot, but it does require a little bit of time and effort, to do the lead testing, send it in, and send the results to the village. because it would give us possibly, if enough residents did it, a kind of map showing if there were areas that were problems, problem areas as opposed to a problem house. Are there problem streets in town, or are there just problem houses? And if people would take the time, it's a little inconvenient. You have to do it first thing in the morning and you can't operate anything else before you do it, but you just fill the bottles, send it in. It's free from the state. Cosmo, the mayor put that in the mayor's column. So it's easy to do, it's quick. And I suggest that everyone do it and send the results into the village so that we might be able to create somewhat of a map of problem areas without any significant expense by the village in a rather quick way.
We've had over 300 residents, homes have sent in for that testing, but I'd like to see every household send their water in for testing.
Yes, it doesn't take much effort. It takes a little planning the night before to make sure that it's the first thing you turn on in terms of water in the morning. But other than that, you just mail it in the prepackaged box and you get the result quickly. I think it would be great if more people would do it.
This is a perfect example of how the POAs can interface with their constituents and the residents to get the word out, to put a protocol in place to assist it. And possibly somebody or some Eagle Scout needs a project. And in getting their efforts, online, statistics is an interesting animal. And the better your population sampling, the better the results and information that you can obtain from it. So yes, this is a cooperative effort, not only from the village's standpoint, but the residents and the subsets of every group in the village acting cooperatively in order to get information that is most useful for the environmental committee.
All right, with that, I'm going to throw this one over to Larry. How do you believe your experiences, both professional and or educational, make you a better candidate for trustee?
It's a very interesting question, Rich. So I think, what I see, one of the fundamental things, responsibility of the Board of Trust to the community is being a problem solver, right? How being able to work with the community, work with a diverse set of folks across the community, and then come up with ways to solve complex problems. I think that's really what I've been doing since I got out of university. I mean, I'm probably today, like I said before, I've been working as a project manager with the Royal Bank of Canada. I've spent most of my life in the capital markets of the finance space. So the math's the easy part, right? The hard part, of the fun part, is really trying and finding solutions to big complex problems like this. So for example, as my fellow candidate said here, how do you solve the situation with lead, right? I think part of it is, getting a complete picture of all the various parts of town to see, okay, where is the real problem, isolate it, and then understand how we approach it, right? These are, it's an example of a type of problem that I would be dealing with on any particular day in my day job, right? Trying to put together solutions to complex problems. And at the same time, I think some of my, my experience as an adjunct professor, part of it's also helping to teach people, what we need to do and how we need to solve different problems and how we need to make the path forward for the community. So I think those are really kind of the main ways.
All right, this one for Charlie. Do you have a position on citizen comment at the BOT meetings, before, after the agenda, or should it be limited in some way?
Sure. Certainly, first, I'd like to note the dramatic change that has occurred in the last year. Having been to scores of BOT meetings over the years, I can certainly attest to the fact that a year and a half ago, I was cut off, treated in a dismissive fashion, and generally not listened to in any substantive way. I probably attended all the meetings in the last, the vast majority of meetings in the last 2.5 years. 2 years ago, they started building the monster poles, and after that, I don't think I missed a meeting, but it's always been frustrating, and I've always thought it was unfair to the citizens when they go there to make a 2-minute comment to be put at the back of the calendar. I don't believe that citizens should have to sit there for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours to make their 2-minute comments. I believe that we should, and this is one of the New Year's resolutions that we've joined in on. I believe that the residents should have an opportunity to speak at the beginning of the meeting for a very short time, maybe 2, maybe 3 minutes, to raise an issue, that they shouldn't have to sit there for 2 hours on non-agenda items before they make a comment. I believe it's frustrating and unfair, and I believe that residents who wish to make a comment on a non-agenda item can do so at the beginning for 2 minutes, or they can do so at the end for an unlimited amount of time, because that's what Mary and the new trustees have made it. It is an unlimited amount of time that is allowed now. The openness at the meetings and the time allowed for questions and comments is strikingly different, a sharp contrast to what it was only a year, 18 months ago. So yes, I do believe that change should be made, though, at least test it out. I don't think that letting citizens who want to raise an issue that's not on the agenda for 2 minutes at the beginning will lead to any significant delay in board meetings. And if it does, if elected, I'm willing to suffer through it.
Any of the other candidates care to comment? Just to remind everybody, the people have been joining. There are 2 ways to ask questions if you'd like. There is a reactions button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. You click on that and you wave your hand, and I'll be able to pick that up if you want to ask a question live, or you could text the question in to the host. And the text box is usually on the bottom right. So let's see.
I'll add one thing to that. I agree with everything Charlie just said, but another thing that has started that I think is a great addition is the meetings, the last Tuesday of the month. The second one is tomorrow night, just an open forum where residents can come and just ask questions and speak with a few of the trustees. There'll be 3 trustees there, and you can, share your thoughts. And I think it's nice for residents, but as importantly, I think for years, there's been talk of like this disconnect between our local government and the residents. And I think the way to fix that is to have better communication and to be listening. So it's really valuable to be a good trustee. We have to be listening to residents and understand what residents care about and what they're worried about. And I think the meeting, comments at the beginning of the meeting encourages more interaction that way, as well as these Tuesday sessions. So that would just be my thing to add.
Okay, great. We do have a live question, looks like from Mr. Wolf. Unmute. If you could just unmute. We can't hear you if you're trying to speak.
You're still muted, Bob. Did you give him a message that the
Can he?
thing to unmute?
Oh, I thought we had it. Let's see. It's usually the bottom left.
Yeah, but he may be trying to unmute. I was locked. So is there anything you need to do, Rich, on your side to allow
Yeah,
them?
there's a button that I'm clicking. It should give you a message to unmute. It should come up
That
on your
one.
screen. Let's see. All right. In the meantime,
I'm ready when you are.
oh, there we go. Okay.
Okay. Hi, Bruce. How are you? I'm calling about the Firehouse Committee. I sat through the presentation and I haven't heard a word since the presentation. What is going on now? Because at the presentation, you never addressed the equipment or the firehouse. And since that time, the board has approved, I think, $1.2 million or $1.5 million emergency repairs at the firehouse. Have these repairs started yet? And what are you working on as far as the firehouse? And when will you be giving a report to the actual board?
Well, it appears as if you have 5 questions in there, and I'll see
Yes,
if
I do.
I'll answer them seriatim. There is an upcoming meeting of the committee again, in which we are charged with localizing and prioritizing those particular changes that need to be made and put forth to the board. As far as a date when the board will act on any of those, that is not in the purview nor control of the Fire Service Committee. The amount of information that was generated was substantial, and we are now in the process of, as you know, putting together a more cogent and selective list of what can be done, the time period within which it can be done. And once that list is put together, then it has to go to the board. With regard to the funding of the particular items of which you mentioned, it is necessary that some of the changes and some of the buildings require immediate care, and therefore it is necessary outside of the Fire Service Committee for the village as steward of the particular buildings to take them and care for them. That is on an independent line of both operations and responsibility. So to answer your question, unfortunately, after the presentation in November, we did have the Christmas break, and we are now getting back together again with the Fire Service Committee for the purposes of carrying the work that has done over the goal line. So rest assured, we are moving forward. Thank you.
All right. So we have another question via text. Can you outline the steps forward with respect to St. Paul's? The last steps I'm aware of are stabilization and remediation of asbestos. So I think I'll throw this to perhaps Mary and maybe Charlie to kick things off. But it's essentially, I think the crux of the question is, where are we with St. Paul's? What were the last steps? What are the next steps?
You know, I think on that, Charlie's probably best suited since he is on the St. Paul's committee, and I am not. I will say that what we ran on last year, the idea, I think it's my understanding this is moving us towards a referendum on St. Paul's, which I support, an up-down vote as far as the future of St. Paul's. But I'll let Charlie address, you know, where the committee's at now.
There's 36 residents who serve on the St. Paul's Committee. It has 5 or 6 subcommittees. I'm chairman of the Law and Zoning Subcommittee. And our goal, as Mary indicated, is to come up with a referendum for a vote, hopefully later this year. I can tell you that the committee is very active. The subcommittees, this year alone, I've been involved in 3 or 4 different meetings. And we have another meeting this Thursday of the St. Paul Committee chairman. And what's taking time is crafting the first half of the referendum, because it's a 2-question referendum. Do you want to develop St. Paul's consistent with the proposal, which will cost each household X dollars per year? Or do you want to demolish St. Paul's at a cost of X per household to do that? And it's anticipated, at least by me, that if the vote is to demolish, that there will be a second referendum where we put before the people, now that you have voted to demolish St. Paul's, do you want to leave it as green space, or do you want to use that area to put in a replacement for Cluett Hall and the field house, which would have a gymnasium and an indoor-outdoor theater? And that would be the second referendum. But the first referendum, we hope to be later this year. There is a lot of work being done by the subcommittees, which have each issued reports on their progress to the chairs of St. Paul's committees. And I do expect, we expect that there'll be a proposed use by the summer, so the residents will have a chance to review it long before they vote on whether to vote for that use at a cost of X or to vote to demolish at a cost of Y. But there is a lot of progress being made by the St. Paul's Committee, which of course is focused just on the St. Paul's building. Nobody's planning to do anything about the 42 acres that are just green space at the moment. It's just focusing on the 8 acres that the building is on.
Okay. This question is going out to Larry. What is your position on vehicular traffic in the village? Village-wide, not just in a particular section, but the question is, I think, broader. It's just the entire village.
I think, I think all you have to do is drive around the streets of Garden City, no matter what section you're in. There's a tremendous amount of traffic on the streets. I think, particularly for my section of the east, if you look at the intersection, say between Stewart Avenue and Washington Street, there have been several accidents there. In fact, one fatality. I think, across the board, we need to take a look at, where we are, right? We need to take a look at what we've done around the number of cars that are going through. I know there's been some discussion around possibly the road diet concept of applying that to Cathedral. I know that's something that is under consideration at this point. But I think across the board, I think we need to take a look at the number and types of things that are out there. And we should do a study across the entirety of the town, just to see, across the village, pardon me, to see what it is. And then to see how we can actually make certain adjustments to the traffic flows in town to make it safer.
All right, so this one, I don't want to pick on you, Mary, but so I'll throw it out to everybody. The question is, have you given up on the monster poles? If no, what else is planned? So it's sort of a question. It sounds like to the current trustees, but I think the gist of the question seems to be, position on the monster poles and what, if anything, where do we go from here?
Yeah, so I think everybody knows I'm limited because there is still litigation on what I can say, but I can say that, the candidates are working hard to represent it. Part of what we ran on and what we're running on again is looking out for residents and protecting residents and doing the best we can to protect them in situations like the monster poles. So I can't speak to the particulars, but it is still a major issue for all of us on the board.
Well, I can certainly say that I still have a sign near my front lawn that says bury the lines. And those of us who helped to start Revamp, which was a residents voters against monster poles in the neighborhood where I live over near Maryland Avenue Station, do not believe that we have given up. And we know that the litigation that was brought was the thin type of litigation with narrow opportunities to prevail. And I still believe that the village should be getting a legal opinion from an independent firm as to whether the large lawsuit that Revamp tried to bring 2 years ago, this July, but wasn't able to raise the funding, is a litigation that has any prospect of recovery. Certainly the memorandum of understanding that was drawn up between the village and the MTA is a contract. And we believe that they've breached it in many different ways, not only erecting the poles without doing a feasibility study. They should have buried the lines, but they've breached it in so many other ways, whether it be landscaping, the walls they've put up, the way they've put the walls up, the height of the walls, the location of the walls, those sound walls. And there's been so many failures and so many breaches of their obligation by the MTA. We wanted to determine if a significant action, an action in nuisance and breach of contract, was a reasonable alternative. And I expect, if elected, to vote to get an opinion as to whether that litigation has any favorable prospects, bringing that litigation against the MTA, Third Track, and the railroad for their various breaches of contracts, from the spotlights that shine down Meadbrook Road to the monster poles that tower over anything we could ever plant there. And the only thing they've planted so far is 6 midget trees that go up to the top of my socks. That's all.
Okay. I think we have another question live. Mr. Wolf has a follow-up.
A question and a comment for Charles, Mr. Kelly. Just to remind you that when FABGC started, you personally commented that you would promptly have a 2-question referendum. We're nowhere near getting a 2-question referendum, so it's not as easy as you thought it was. Now, in reference to your first point of the referendum is how much will it cost each taxpayer per year? My response to that is the answer to that question is how much is the village willing to spend? Is it 100 million? Is it 75 million? Is it 50 million? How can you possibly come up with that number until you have an estimated cost? And how much will it cost you to obtain that estimated cost? I'm telling you right now, for $100 million, you'll get next. Considering that St. Anne's little building cost about $4 million, I don't know how much money you're planning to spend on whatever you're doing at St. Paul's. I would like to know how you plan to obtain the estimated cost that you're going to use to determine how much it's going to cost each taxpayer, is my basic question.
That's what's going on right now. We have committees made up of engineer experts, architects, and an estimate is going to be made or obtained as to what can be done in terms of renovating and retrofitting the building. We're not going to suggest at the time of the referendum that we have an exact figure, but what we're going to give you is the magnitude, and the order of magnitude of renovating and redoing the building will be X, and we'll have a pretty definitive estimate, I believe, with regard to the demolition. We've gotten those estimates historically. The board had a proposal, as I'm sure you know, 12 years ago to consider demolition, and they got an estimate back then. I'm sure it's a significant increase from that estimate, but I think we'll have a pretty close to exact estimate of what it costs to demolish. But obviously, the estimate for renovating and refurbishing the whole building will be an estimate. And that's all it'll be. And you're absolutely right. I had hoped that there would be a referendum last year, and now my hope is that it'll be this year. And that's what I'll be pushing for if I'm elected on the Board of Trustees, that we come up, we want to get a sense of what the residents want. And I don't think the estimate for renovating has to be exact. It can be approximate, but we want to find out, is there a significant majority for one alternative or another?
Okay, so we have a question via text. It's Mary, I'm going to throw it to you. It's something of a question I think should go to probably the current board. So I'll do my best to just ask it and then maybe reframe it for the other candidates. But the question is, since the last BOT meeting when the Cathedral RFP was discussed, what has been done to reach out to the Cathedral to get a copy of the RFP, let them know of the village desire to possibly purchase this property?
You know what, the mayor's working on that, so he'd really have to answer that question, but I know he has taken steps there to do outreach.
And I believe we had discussed this earlier, just generally, but if any of the candidates have anything else they'd like to add in terms of the Cathedral situation, the RFP, either let me know or we can come back to it.
Well, I know the mayor took immediate steps. I certainly talked to him, and others talked to him about the issue, and it's I don't think I can discuss what he told me, but I can say that he's made a lot of progress in the last 10 days, and he's taken a lot of steps in the last 10 days, and he considers it a significant issue that goes to the core of the village.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to echo Charlie's comment. I spoke with the mayor on Friday, and he's taking this sees this as an extremely critical issue, right, facing our village. I mean, what's being discussed would, alter our village forever, and we need to make sure we take appropriate steps to make sure we maintain continuity around the village and do everything possible to make sure that the right steps are taken.
I see a few more questions. So do the candidates have a position with respect to body cameras or not? I get this is referring to Garden City police officers wearing body cameras.
I haven't hadn't heard any discussion on that. I think it was raised with the commissioner. And I'm not sure what the if that's been resolved or not.
Just to give you an idea, body cameras are an issue that must be negotiated with the PBA and the village. So this is not something that can be done by fiat. It is a difficult procedure. There are issues that are well above our discussion for today. But quite candidly, It is, and we see that it is happening in most of the police departments across the nation. So why would the village be an outlier? Without further information, I can't answer that question.
Any other questions? All right, I don't at this time see any hands up or any text questions. So I'll ask my closing questions to each of the candidates. Very simple. Why choose you? Why choose FABGC? And I'll start with, we'll start with Larry. Larry, you went last. Let's put you first. Why you? Why FABGC?
Okay, so I get the bet first this time around. Okay, not a problem. Why me? I think first and foremost, I bring a bit of a new view on the town, right? I mean, again, I've been here for almost 20 years, but I think my perspective, being outside of village politics, brings a bit of a refreshing view on things. I think my skill set lends me to being someone who can help solve problems. I think that's one of the key goals and the key reasons for the Board of Trust is to help solve problems and put the needs of the town first. And why FABGC? I think as a village, FABGC gave people a choice. It gave people a choice in terms of how they want the government to run within our town. Gave people a choice to look for alternatives and new ways and new things to think about. And I think it's important for a village like ours that it's important that we see that there are times for us to change. Otherwise, we're gonna get slow. Get slow, and you fall by the wayside. So I think that's the key with FABGC. Is I think there's some great strides made with the last election, and the key is to continue forward because there's more work to be done. Right, there's more work to be done, and we need to keep pushing forward. With a level of transparency and with the government that's there to serve the people.
Thank you, Larry. And I'll kick it over to Charlie Kelly next.
I think people should vote for me because I'm fully conversant with the issues. I will help to restore fairness to the government, the operations of government. There are big and little things that have been done in the last 5 years that have been very unfair, in my opinion. I think the monster polls are a result of an unfair process orchestrated by the Board of Trustees and utilizing an MOU that was just very poorly drafted and never should have been agreed to by the board. I believe the people on Raymond Court were victims of a wholly unfair process in the selection of that, putting a parking lot at the end of their dead end block. And essentially what that did was you're concerned about traffic in the village, and here you are injecting traffic into a dead end street to the detriment of all the residents and all the children there. And that's something I intend to take a fresh look at if I'm elected. So if you vote for me, you're voting to restore openness and fairness to the system of village government. And I believe that's why you should vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. And I'll throw it over now to Bruce Torino.
Good evening, and thank you for participating. Experience matters. And in my case, I was a trustee for 4 years. And in every election, there should be a choice. Otherwise, it is merely a selection. And my candidacy should be evaluated as against my opponent. What is their ability? Do they have the same knowledge base? Do they have the same criteria of skills, communications, and resourcefulness to address the issues that are before the board? There is no makeup time. You have to go into being a trustee with a base of intellectual capability and experiences to get the job done. So in that particular case, I believe that I am qualified for the position and the issues that are being addressed.
Great. And Trustee Flanagan.
Right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I have, enjoyed serving for the last year. I came to village government with a commitment to restore transparency and community engagement, and I've been working hard to do that during the last year. And I look forward to continuing. There's more work to be done, and to continuing to do that for the community. I do think that my background, my legal background, my career, as well as my involvement in the community for so many years, did prepare me well for the position. And I look forward to, I ask for your vote and look forward to serving in the future.
All right, great. Thank you. And I see John Cantwell has a question.
Yeah, I just want one that I can throw over to you, Rich. When is the election?
Oh, this year's election will be March 15th. And thank you, John. Yes, March 15th, everyone should get out and vote. And I believe it's is it at St. Paul's this year?
It's going to be at the field house. And actually, for those wondering, there's going to be absentee ballot availability again, as there was last year. That will be an option, or mail-in voting, if you'd prefer that.
And thank you, John. Yeah. And look, everybody, we're having more Zoom meetings and a couple of in-person meetings as well. You can always check out the events page on fabgc.org and follow us there. You could feel free to also ask questions on Facebook as well. I want to, on behalf of the candidates, on behalf of FABGC, thank you so much for attending tonight. Be well, stay safe, and we'll see you around town. Good night, everybody.
Right. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Good night, everyone.